Jamus Lim.
Mr. Speaker, the proposed amendments to the Electronic Transactions Act of 2011 and related amendments to two other acts are intended to incorporate the UN Commission on International Trade Law's model law on electronic transferable records into our domestic legislation. To the extent that these amendments represent the government's ongoing efforts to renew as well as support the modernization of various areas of the economy, and in this specific case with regard to trade, it is undeniably welcome and will further bolster our position as a global trading hub. While such laws that enhance trade facilitation may seem pedestrian, they represent important steps that ensure that the less glamorous, bread and butter aspects of international trade are brought into the 21st century and represent low-hanging fruit insofar as gaining efficiencies from digitalization are concerned. That said, I wish to just add 3 points about moves to incorporate blockchain technologies to caution that the remaining excluded items could still be a binding constraint to fully realizing efficiency in trade, and to stress the need to provide support for our smaller firms as they make this important digital transition. My first point concerns electronic document verification. Paragraph 1 in Article 10 of the model law was written with the recognition of the inherent difficulty in ascertaining the uniqueness of any given document in an electronic environment. In many ways, this is a purely technical issue and one not easily finessed by the language of the law. That said, recent innovations in blockchain technology now offer the promise of decentralized assurance of transactions integrity. Minister Iswaran did explicitly point to these issues, but the Ministry of Trade and Industry's position on incorporating such innovations, insofar as the amended law is concerned, remains somewhat unclear. It therefore behooves me to ask what the status of the MTI's plans are on the rollout of these blockchain-based platforms for transferable electronic transactions in this space, such as cargo access, smart bill of lading, or the IPS CSA's e-bill of lading initiative, which I believe Minister Iswaran also alluded to. And it would be helpful to know if the MTI has already decided on favoring one of these platforms versus another, and if relevant industry players have been informed. My second point is one of caution. I note that the amendments only propose to delete item 2 of the first schedule, and these are items excluded by the Electronic Transactions Act. Although it may seem sensible to proceed linearly and delete the other items when related legislation is ready, it is worth recognizing that these other items may be less unrelated than they may seem prima facie. For instance, item 4 excludes from the Act the sale, and item 5 the conveyance of immovable property. But real-world trade is executed alongside a very rich set of trade financing instruments, which include not just standard fair letters of credit, but also other subtler forms of financing, such as leasing or inventory financing. To the extent that such instruments are still represented on the first schedule, digitally enabled trade transactions may potentially remain partially inhibited until these items are ultimately removed. Mr. Speaker, my final point is more general, but perhaps the most pertinent one in the context of our local businesses. The amendments as they stand do not include provisions that would support our small and medium enterprises in adopting trade-related electronic transactions records, thereby transitioning to this 21st century economy. Perhaps this issue will be addressed in subsidiary legislation, or is implicit in the number of existing policies to support digitalization. but I believe it's worth reiterating the importance of embedding the trade elements outlined in this bill into programs such as Enterprise SG's Enterprise Development Grant or Productivity Solutions Grant. And will these funds be applicable not just to new transactions, but also to enable the digitalization of the existing stock of paper records for these firms? Now, beyond rolling SME support into existing policy, is there a way to ensure that cost savings that accrue from this digitalization effort are then passed on through to the firms themselves? One practical way forward is to endow a government secretariat, possibly within IMDA's own digital tech hub or Go Digital platform, that would assist small business owners in filling up standardized trade documents as a pre-approved solution. Another practical suggestion would be for IMDA to maintain a database of accredited shipping or trade legal firms that are familiar with the new digital records standards. Finally, I would go as far as to suggest that it might be helpful if the government were to take a proactive step in identifying a selection of externally oriented SMEs and working with them to digitalize their international trading operations. This would not only allow the all-important demonstration effect, but also enable IMDA to learn the best practices and standard operating procedures necessary for scaling up their assistance, and to enable a more systematic evaluation of the costs and benefits of digitalized trading operations for small firms. Notwithstanding these three issues, I support the bill.